Welcome to Thalira Tales, where stories bloom in silence, carrying emotion, mystery, and hidden truth. Step in and let the tale unfold.
The squeal of suitcase wheels rolling over the bluestone patio snapped me out of my deep thoughts. I set my now cold mug of chamomile tea on the wooden side table, stood up slowly, and walked toward the front entrance. The heavy, solid oak door swung open without a single creak, mirroring the suffocating silence that had weighed heavy on my heart for the past few months. There stood Liam, my husband, glowing under the afternoon New York sun. He looked tanner, and the smile on his lips was wider than usual, a smile I had once considered the most beautiful in the world. Right behind him was Finn, his younger brother by 5 years, dragging a suitcase almost as massive as Liam's. Both looked like they had just returned from an actual vacation, brimming with energy and satisfaction. Well, I shouldn't say vacation. It was supposed to be a 15-day business trip to Maui. Did you come out to greet us, honey? With this heat, you should have stayed inside resting, Liam said in his sweet, familiar tone. He raised his hand to stroke my hair, but I subtly tilted my head to avoid his touch. I forced a smile, one I had practiced hundreds of times in front of the mirror. I'm glad you guys are back. The business trip must have been exhausting. Finn rushed forward to greet me as well. Hey, Audrey, this trip to scout the new resort project was draining, honestly, but the results were excellent. I nodded and took a step back so they could both bring their luggage inside. The scent of Liam's cologne, the very one I had picked out for him, flooded my senses, but now it was mixed with another scent, the nauseating stench of falsehood and betrayal. I watched the two men take off their shoes and leave their bags in the corner of the living room. They hadn't yet noticed the strange atmosphere in the house. They couldn't yet feel the storm gathering right above their heads. Where's Nora? Sweetie? Liam asked, collapsing comfortably onto the sofa and stretching his legs. Did my little girl miss me? I left her at my parents' house. She missed you a lot. She kept asking when Daddy was coming back from his work trip. I replied in a monotone voice, completely devoid of inflection. I walked to the kitchen and brought them 2 glasses of ice water. Drink up. You must be tired. Liam took the glass and downed half of it in one gulp. Finn did the same. The vibe in the living room remained eerily normal. Liam started recounting his trip, complaining about difficult partners and beautiful beaches he barely had time to enjoy because he was so busy working. Finn chimed in every now and then to prove he had been a fundamental part of the trip. I sat across from them in silence, toying with the wedding band on my ring finger, the same ring he had slipped on my hand 10 years ago with promises of eternal love and protection for a lifetime. How ironic. When their stories ran dry, when they completely ran out of things to brag about, I spoke calmly. I didn't look at Liam, but directly at Finn, who seemed a bit uncomfortable with my silence. Was it a fun trip, Finn? Finn flinched and stammered. Yeah, well, it was fine, Audrey. Mostly work. I turned to Liam, the man I had shared my life with. My glare must have been ice cold. I watched the smile vanish from his lips. He was starting to sense that something was very wrong. Liam? I called his name in a voice barely above a whisper. I have something to ask you. Sure, honey. Ask whatever you want, he replied, trying to maintain his composure. I stood up and paced slowly around the living room, my fingers lightly brushing against familiar decorative objects. Our wedding photo still hung on the main wall. In it, we were both smiling, genuinely happy. I stopped behind Liam and placed my hands on his shoulders, a gesture I used to do all the time. I felt his body tense up. I leaned in close to his ear, just loud enough so that Finn, sitting a few feet away, could hear. My voice was a whisper, but every word sliced through the air like a knife. She is HIV positive. Did you know? The room seemed to freeze. I could vividly feel the shoulders beneath my hands begin to tremble violently. I pulled my hands away, walked back to my chair, sat down, and calmly crossed my legs. I looked at the 2 men in front of me. The smiles, the arrogance, the comfort from moments ago had vanished without a trace. In their place were 2 faces pale as a sheet of paper, completely drained of blood. Liam sat petrified on the couch, staring at me with wide, bulging eyes, unable to process what he had just heard. Finn was in even worse shape. He jumped up as if he'd been burned, then collapsed back onto the sofa, his head in his hands, mouth hanging open, unable to articulate a single word. The silence stretched out until it became unbearable. I could hear the ticking of the wall clock, every second hammering the growing panic into the hearts of these two sinners. My masterpiece had just begun. 3 months ago, my life was the picture-perfect American dream. I had a brilliant husband who adored his wife and daughter, a beautiful, well-behaved little girl, and an interior design firm I had founded myself that was absolutely booming. I also had a best friend named Chloe, who had been by my side through the best years of our youth. I thought I was the happiest woman in the world, until one fateful Saturday night. That night, after little Nora went to sleep, Liam and I were watching a rom-com in the living room. Halfway through the movie, Liam said he was feeling a bit tired and wanted to take a quick shower. I nodded, my eyes still glued to the TV screen. A few minutes later, his phone resting on the coffee table, lit up and vibrated softly, signaling a new text. I never had the habit of snooping through my husband's phone. I respected his privacy, and above all, I trusted him blindly. But I don't know why, in that exact moment, a terrible gut feeling washed over me. The screen was only lit for a few seconds, but I had enough time to read the sender's name, Chloe. My stomach dropped. Why was my best friend in my husband's phone? I tried to calm myself down. Maybe it was a mistake, or a joke from our group chat. Chloe was my friend, practically my sister. She was Nora's godmother. It was impossible. But curiosity and anxiety gnawed at me. With trembling hands, I picked up Liam's phone. The passcode was my birthday. I took a deep breath and unlocked the screen. Chloe's text appeared before my eyes, short but enough to shatter my entire world. I miss you and the way you smell. I read that sentence over and over, each word stabbing into my heart like a needle. A lump formed in my throat. I scrolled up to read the older messages. A barrage of sweet talk, clandestine hookups, and the blatant lies they had used to deceive me. How long had they been together? How was it possible that I, the wife and the best friend, had become the fool in my own life story? The sound of the shower stopped. I quickly put the phone back exactly where it was, trying to keep my cool, but a hurricane was raging inside me. I wanted to run to the bathroom, bang on the door, and demand an explanation. I wanted to call Chloe and scream at her. Why? I wanted to make a massive scene so everyone would know the true faces of these despicable people. But then another thought crossed my mind. What good would throwing a fit do? What good was a messy, loud divorce? I would lose my husband, my friend, and potentially the company I had sweat blood to build. Liam wasn't just my husband. He was the CFO of my firm, holding crucial industry contacts. If we divorced, he wouldn't let me off easy. No, I couldn't act so stupidly. Tears could fall, but not for nothing. I wouldn't suffer this pain alone. They had slapped me in the face, and I was going to hit back 100,000 times harder. When Liam walked out of the bathroom with a towel around his waist and his hair dripping wet, he smiled at me. "Movie over yet, babe?" I turned to him and gave him my brightest smile. The smile of a happy, unsuspecting wife. "Not yet, honey. I paused it to wait for you." That night, for the first time in 10 years of marriage, lying next to my husband filled me with absolute disgust. I felt every breath he took, every accidental brush of his skin, and I just wanted to shove him away. But I didn't. I closed my eyes, faking deep sleep. In the dark, my revenge plan began to take shape step by step, clear and ice cold. I wouldn't just take back what was mine. I would make those who betrayed me pay the ultimate price. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Liam was sleeping peacefully, a serene expression on his face. I looked at him without an ounce of love, only with cold contempt. I slipped out of bed quietly, got dressed, and drove into the city. My destination was a discreet private investigator's office tucked away in Midtown Manhattan. I had found the listing online the night before. The agency had a reputation for being quiet and effective. I was greeted by a man in his 50s with a sturdy build and weathered skin. He introduced himself as Frank. He had sharp eyes that looked like they could read a person's soul. He invited me to sit down and offered me a cup of coffee. "How can I help you, Mrs. Davis?" he asked in a deep, direct voice. I cut right to the chase. I told him my suspicions, the texts I had read. I gave him photos of Liam and Chloe, along with their home addresses, workplaces, and license plate numbers. "I want you to follow my husband," Liam, and my best friend, Chloe. I want to know everything. Where they go, what they do, who they meet. And above all, I want irrefutable proof of their affair, I said with a calmness that surprised even me. Frank nodded, taking notes in a small legal pad. Understood. An investigation of this scope won't be cheap, and it will take time. Money is not an issue, I replied firmly. I just need results. And most importantly, this has to be kept strictly confidential. My husband is very sharp. I don't want him suspecting a thing. Don't worry, that's what we do. I gave him a generous retainer and walked out of the building. Breathing in the crisp New York morning air, I felt a slight sense of relief. I was no longer alone in this war. Over the next few days, I continued playing my role as the devoted wife and great friend. I kept cooking Liam's favorite meals, smiling, and asking about his day at the office. I kept calling Chloe to go shopping or grab brunch. She kept acting super close, holding my hand, sharing gossip, and asking about my family with fake concern. Seeing her hypocritical face made me want to rip her hair out, but I held back. A good drama requires a grand finale. A week later, Frank sent the first report to a secure email address we had set up. It was a zip file containing dozens of photos and a short video. I locked my home office door and opened the file, my hands shaking. My heart pounded as the images loaded. Liam and Chloe dining at a high-end French restaurant by candlelight. Liam feeding her a bite of his food. Their looks filled with intimacy. Another photo of them holding hands walking through Central Park. Another of them hugging in a mall parking garage. And the climax. A video of Liam taking Chloe to her apartment late at night, making out passionately before unlocking the door. That night, Liam didn't come home. He had told me he was in Boston for a client meeting. I sat frozen at my computer. Tears streamed down my cheeks. Even though I was prepared, seeing the proof with my own eyes broke my heart. The man I loved, the woman I considered a sister, had trampled on my love and trust. But I didn't allow myself to break down. I wiped my tears and backed up all the files onto a hidden flash drive. This was just the beginning. I needed more evidence, heavier evidence to destroy them completely. I called Frank. Keep digging. I want to know more. Finances, other relationships, everything. My silent investigation continued. Every day I received new pieces of their disgusting puzzle of betrayal. And I, playing the ignorant wife, waited patiently, sharpening my knives for Judgment Day. The investigation dragged on for almost another month. Frank was highly professional, sending detailed, discreet updates regularly. I had amassed quite a collection of photos and videos of Liam and Chloe's dates. Lunches, movies, even a secret weekend getaway to the Hamptons, a weekend Liam claimed he was pulled into an emergency site visit in Philly. Every piece of evidence was a fresh cut to my heart, but my resolve turned to steel. One day, Frank called me. His voice sounded more serious than usual. Audrey, I found something new. I think we should meet in person. With a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach, I met him at a quiet coffee shop in Brooklyn. Frank arrived on time and slid a manila envelope across the table. While tailing Chloe, I noticed a pretty strange habit, he began. Every 2 weeks or so, she drives alone to Mercy General Hospital. She always goes straight to the infectious disease outpatient clinic, stays for an hour or two, and leaves looking exhausted and worried. Mercy General Hospital, a top-tier facility known for its specialized infectious disease wing. Why would Chloe go there so often? A series of horrifying assumptions raced through my mind. Were you able to find out why she goes there? I asked, trying to keep my voice from shaking. Frank shook his head. It's tough. Medical records are highly confidential, HIPAA laws and all. But I have some contacts. I had someone pull a few strings. The results might shock you. With that, he tapped the envelope. My hands were freezing as I touched it. Inside was a single folded sheet of paper. I unfolded it slowly. It was a copy of a medical intake summary. At the top, her personal info. Chloe Evans. Date of birth, address. Everything matched. But what made me stop breathing was the diagnosis circled in red marker. HIV. Positive. Clinical stage 2. Currently on antiretroviral therapy, ART. Since the 15th of May 2021. The 15th of May 2021, 3 years ago. She had carried this disease for 3 years without saying a word to her best friend. 3 years of hugging and kissing my daughter, eating and drinking at my dinner table. And the most terrifying part, 3 years of sleeping with my husband. The man who slept in my bed every single night. My whole body trembled not from anger, but from primal fear. A fear that seeped into every cell of my body. I could be infected. My daughter, Nora. I couldn't bear to keep thinking. Is this information verified, Frank? I asked, my voice cracking. 100% verified, Audrey. I cross-checked it with 2 different sources. It's the truth. I folded the paper and shoved it into my purse. My head was spinning. Their betrayal was no longer just a cheap affair. It had escalated into an attempted murder plot. Chloe hadn't just stolen my husband. She was practically handing down a death sentence to my entire family. And Liam. Did he know? If he knew and kept doing it, he was worse than a monster. If he didn't know, he was the stupidest man on earth. I paid Frank an even larger bonus than we agreed upon. He deserved it. This information was the ultimate weapon I needed. It changed my entire plan. Now, I didn't just want to ruin them financially. I wanted them to live with the exact same terror, paranoia, and pain I was experiencing. When I left the coffee shop, I didn't go home. I drove straight to a trusted private clinic to get an HIV test. The pinch of the needle, watching my own blood fill the vial, left me feeling entirely hollow. The results would take 3 days, probably the longest 3 days of my life. During those 3 days, I lived like a ghost in my own home. Fear and rage consumed me. I avoided all physical contact with Liam, using work stress as an excuse. He didn't seem to care much. His mind was entirely occupied by his secret dates. It was during these days that another suspicion began to grow. Chloe was very pragmatic. Her relationship with Liam, beyond just the thrill of the affair, had to have another motive, especially considering Liam held a key financial position in my company. I had founded AD Interiors from the ground up, but when we got married, I gifted Liam 30% of the shares and made him chief financial officer. His brother, Finn, I hired as head of sales. I had placed way too much trust in my in-laws, giving them practically total control over the money. I immediately called my lead accountant and demanded all financial reports, bank statements, and major vendor contracts from the last 2 years, claiming we were prepping for a massive audit for a new investment project. Alone in my office at midnight, I started combing through the documents. At first glance, everything looked normal. But my years of experience helped me spot the red flags: payments to unknown suppliers, material contracts with wildly inflated prices, consulting fees paid to firms I'd never heard of. I looked up those LLCs online. Most were shell companies, recently registered to vague P.O. boxes. The registered agents were names I didn't recognize. My heart raced. I compared the authorized signatures on the wire transfers and purchase orders. They were all signed by Liam and Finn. They had conspired to create shell companies, forging fake invoices to bleed my company dry. I did the math quickly. The funds siphoned off over 2 years totaled almost $300,000. So this was their real endgame. Chloe seduced Liam, and Liam dragged his brother into it to loot the empire I had built with my own 2 hands. Love, family, friendship, it was all a scam. Just then, my phone buzzed. A text from Frank. New photos. This time, it wasn't Liam and Chloe. It was Finn and Chloe. Sitting at a bar, her head resting on his shoulder, walking into a hotel together. And the clearest one. Aggressively making out inside Finn's SUV. I was speechless. A web of lies, deceit, and unimaginable filth. Chloe wasn't just sleeping with my husband. She was screwing my brother-in-law too. The 3 of them formed a demonic triangle, working together to betray and destroy me. Finn, a guy I treated like a little brother, was just another snake I had let into my home. My hatred reached its absolute peak. But strangely, I felt calmer than ever. With the whole truth laid bare, I knew exactly what to do. No more tears. From now on, it was pure, cold calculation. I wouldn't just expose them. I would make them pay for every single crime. I would take back my company, my money, and my dignity, and I would make sure they could never, ever recover. The day I got my blood test results was the same day Liam announced that he and Finn had a 15-day business trip to Maui to lock down a massive resort project. I knew it was a lie. Frank had already tipped me off that Chloe had just taken 2 weeks of PTO. The business trip was actually a luxury getaway for the three of them, entirely funded by money stolen from my business. I held the lab report in my hands. Negative. I felt like I had been reborn. A crushing weight evaporated from my chest, but the relief was instantly replaced by an even fiercer determination. I was safe. Now, I could dedicate myself entirely to my masterpiece. I decided to use Chloe's HIV status as my primary weapon, but not just yet. I would let them enjoy their final days of bliss. The higher they climbed, the more bones they would break on the way down. The night before Liam left, I cooked a lavish dinner featuring all his favorite dishes. I opened a bottle of expensive red wine we usually saved for special occasions. Under the warm dining room lights, I looked at the man sitting across from me, the man I had desperately loved just a few months ago. "You're going to be gone so long, Nora and I are really going to miss you," I said in a pouty, affectionate tone. Liam looked incredibly pleased with himself. He reached across the table and took my hand. "I'll miss you girls too. But it's work, babe. This project is huge. If we land it, it's going to take the firm to the next level. I'm doing this for our family's future." I smiled. The perfect, devoted wife smile. "I know. You always work so hard for us. Go and don't worry about a thing. I've got everything handled here." After dinner, I packed his suitcase for him. I grabbed his largest bag, carefully folding his dress shirts and slacks. I packed his vitamins, his toiletries, and a high-end SPF 50 sunscreen. The sun in Hawaii is intense. Reapply constantly. "I don't want you coming back so burnt I don't even recognize you," I said while zipping his toiletry bag, acting as if I genuinely believed he was going to be on job sites. Liam leaned against the doorframe, watching me with a faint glimmer of guilt. Maybe he had a shred of conscience left. Or maybe he just felt bad for conning such a flawless wife. "Thanks, babe," he said, walking up behind me and wrapping his arms around my waist. "You're always so thoughtful." I suppressed a shudder and faked normality. I turned around, looped my arms around his neck, and gave him a soft peck. "It's nothing. I'm your wife. Have a safe trip." That night, he wanted to be intimate. I didn't refuse. I played along, fulfilling all his desires, but inside I was intensely nauseated. I closed my eyes, telling myself I was just granting a final meal to an inmate on death row. The next morning, I woke up early to make him coffee and breakfast. I walked him to the front door, straightened his collar, and gave him a dozen reminders. Finn was already idling in his luxury SUV at the end of the driveway. "Have a great trip. Come home soon," I called out, waving. Liam smiled and waved back. The SUV disappeared around the corner. The smile instantly dropped from my face, replaced by a terrifyingly cold glare. "Go. Have fun. Because when you get back, hell is going to be waiting for you right here." The best part of my show hasn't even started. The 15 days Liam and Finn were away were 15 days of total freedom for me to execute the next phases of my plan. I dropped Nora off at my parents' house, telling them I was swamped with a major project at the firm and needed them to watch her. They bought it and encouraged me to crush the project. My primary focus those days wasn't the office. It was planting the first seeds of paranoia. My first target was Finn. Compared to Liam, Finn was immature and psychologically fragile. On the 5th day of their trip, I called him. I knew that given the time difference, they were probably day drinking on a beach or at a luxury resort in Maui. "Hey, Audrey." Finn's voice sounded surprised and slightly on edge. "Hey, it's me. I hope I'm not interrupting. How's the work going out there?" I asked, playing the concerned sister-in-law. Good. Really good, Audrey. We're in a meeting with the partners right now," he stammered. "That's great. Listen, the reason I called is that I was at the office yesterday reviewing some old vendor contracts, and I saw a couple of weird discrepancies I'm going to need you to clarify. When you get back, stop by my office." "Oh, okay." I kept my voice light, but the message was clear. "I am looking into your paperwork." "Yeah, for sure. First thing when I get back?" "Great. Anyway, let you get back to work. Oh, and by the way..." I paused, acting as if the thought just popped into my head. "You've been looking a bit pale and under the weather lately. Take care of yourself. I'm actually scheduling full panel medical exams for the entire executive team soon. I figured we should add some comprehensive blood panels just to be safe. With all the crazy viruses going around these days, it's better to be safe than sorry, right? I heard Finn audibly gulp on the other end of the line. Thanks for looking out, Audrey. Anytime. We're family. All right, bye. I hung up with a freezing smirk. I knew those few sentences had planted a massive bomb in Finn's head. He would immediately start spiraling, wondering why I was suddenly auditing old contracts, why I mentioned full panel medical checkups, and why I wanted comprehensive blood work. But that wasn't enough. A few days later, I drove over to Finn's apartment. I had a spare key his mother had given me for emergencies. I went in during the afternoon when I knew nobody would be around. I didn't rummage through anything. I just went to plant a flag. I walked into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and purposely left my signature pearl hairpin on the kitchen island. It was a designer piece. Finn would instantly recognize it as mine. Then, I walked into his bedroom. Sitting on his nightstand was a small framed photo of him and Chloe, looking incredibly cozy. I picked up the frame, stared at it for a second, and placed it face down on the nightstand. A small gesture with a deafening message. I know everything. Before I left, I did one last thing. I took out my phone and snapped a few photos of the bedroom, specifically zooming in on the face-down photo frame. Then, using an encrypted burner email, I sent those photos, no subject line, no text, directly to Chloe's personal email address. I locked the door carefully and left. I could perfectly picture the ensuing chaos. Finn would get home, find my hairpin, see the flipped photo, and absolutely panic. He would frantically call Chloe to ask what she did. And when Chloe opened that anonymous email, she would lose her mind. Distrust, accusations, and paranoia would rip them apart. An alliance built on lies crumbles at the slightest breeze of suspicion. I knew for a fact the last 10 days of their paradise vacation had morphed into a living, breathing nightmare. Back in the present, sitting in my living room, Liam and Finn's pale, horrified faces were the answer to my question. They knew, or at least they suspected, the truth. My psychological warfare over the past 2 weeks had worked flawlessly. Liam was the first to react, stammering, desperately grasping for a lifeline. What? What are you talking about? I don't understand, I scoffed. You don't understand? You just spent 15 days screwing her in Hawaii, eating together, sleeping together, doing God knows what, and you're sitting on my couch telling me you don't understand? Every word was a bullet to Liam's chest. He couldn't deny it. His face shifted from pale to a sickly gray. Finn, sitting next to him, was shaking like a leaf. How? How do you know? Finn whispered, utterly terrified. How I know is irrelevant. What matters is that what I know is a fact. I answered with a voice made of ice. I grabbed my designer tote, pulled out a thick manila folder, and slammed it onto the coffee table. See for yourselves. The first document was the photocopy of Chloe's medical intake form. The words HIV positive, which I had highlighted in neon yellow, practically jumped off the page. Liam picked up the paper with trembling hands. His pupils dilated in pure horror. The paper slipped from his fingers. He slumped back against the sofa, gasping for air as if he were drowning. Finn grabbed another piece of paper. It was the photo of him and Chloe making out in his SUV. His face drained of all color, and he dropped it like it was on fire. No, that's impossible. She told me she was perfectly healthy, Liam mumbled, his eyes glazed over. Healthy, I sneered. A healthy person who, for the last 3 years, has been sneaking into the infectious disease wing at Mercy General twice a month to manage her viral load? Do you actually believe that? Or were you just tricking yourself into thinking she went there for allergies? I stood up and walked over to Liam, staring down into his eyes, which were now brimming with despair. I'm going to ask you one last time, Liam. Before you slept with her, did you know she was sick? This time, Liam couldn't even look at me. He dropped his head, digging his fingers into his hair. His silence was a confession. He didn't know. This idiot had been played by his mistress and his own brother. He had essentially signed his own death warrant. I felt absolutely no satisfaction looking at his pathetic state. I only felt disgust. A man who threw away his family, his career, and possibly his own life just to chase a thrill. He didn't deserve another second of my emotional energy. All right, I said, smoothing my skirt and regaining my composure. Your health issues are your problem. Let's talk about something else. I walked back to the table and flipped to the next section of the dossier. The forged contracts. The fraudulent wire transfers featuring Liam and Finn's signatures. Almost $300,000 in 2 years. You two are real artists, boys. Embezzling corporate funds to bankroll a sick mistress. Do you feel like big, tough men? At that moment, both Liam and Finn's heads snapped up. The terror in their eyes was somehow even worse than when they saw Chloe's medical records. They couldn't fathom that on top of the infidelity, I had completely unraveled their corporate fraud scheme. I had boxed them into a corner with 0 exits. Since that fateful afternoon, our house became a tomb. Finn had bolted out the door the second I brought out the embezzlement proof. He didn't dare look at me or say a word to his brother. He just grabbed his suitcase and ran like a thief in the night. That left just Liam and me in the massive house, but the distance between us was wider than an ocean. We slept in separate rooms. I moved all his belongings into the guest bedroom and strictly forbade him from setting foot in the master suite. Liam didn't argue. He accepted his fate in silence, lingering like a ghost. He was no longer the confident, handsome executive. He was a dead man walking, consumed entirely by paranoia. I knew he wasn't sleeping. At night, I could hear him pacing in the next room, sighing heavily, muttering to himself. He lost weight rapidly. Dark, hollow circles formed under his eyes, and his skin took on a grayish tint. The obsession with the virus had hijacked his brain. I caught him using his laptop in the dark, frantically Googling. His search history was a graveyard of anxiety. Early symptoms of HIV, HIV window period, where to get rapid HIV test, life expectancy with HIV. He read voraciously, and the more he read, the more he spiraled. A simple rash or a pimple sent him into a frenzy. Examining himself in the bathroom mirror with eyes full of dread, he developed a dry cough from the changing weather, but in his mind, it was tuberculosis, an opportunistic infection. He was living in a customized hell, built entirely of his own paranoia. About a week later, I knew he had reached his breaking point. That morning, he told me he had to go to the office early. I had already texted Frank to tail him. Liam didn't go to the office. He drove to a highly discreet private clinic on the Upper East Side. Wearing a surgical mask and a baseball cap pulled low, he snuck into the lab testing center. From the comfort of my kitchen island, I scrolled through the photos Frank texted me. Liam sitting in the waiting room, hands clasped between his knees, staring at the floor. Liam wincing as a nurse drew blood from his thin, shaking arm. Seeing him like this didn't spark a single ounce of pity in me. This was the tab he had run up, and it was time to pay. The rapid results would take a few hours, but the definitive lab confirmation would take several days. Those days of waiting were pure psychological torture for him. He became irritable, jumping out of his skin every time a phone rang. He was terrified of hearing a death sentence, but simultaneously desperate for the waiting to end. I remained made of stone. I never asked how he was feeling. I only talked about the business and the stolen money. I demanded a line-by-line accounting of the missing funds. Every time I brought up the money, Liam physically shrank, begging for more time. His brain literally couldn't process financial spreadsheets right now. The only thing that mattered to him was the lab result. I knew his spirit was completely broken. The wild beast in him was caged by fear. And I, the hunter, just had to sit back and wait for the perfect moment to deliver the kill shot. While Liam withered away in his own house, I cast my net of terror over the other 2 targets, Finn and Chloe. I wanted them to experience that same sensation of being buried alive, the agonizing wait for the guillotine to drop. I called Finn first. Since that day in the living room, he hadn't shown up to the office or contacted me. He had turned his phone off, trying to lay low, but Frank's guys were on him. I knew exactly where he was. I used a burner number to call him. After a few rings, he answered, sounding paranoid. "Who is this?" "It's me," I replied coolly. "How long are you planning on hiding? Do you really think ghosting is going to fix this?" Silence on the other end. I could hear his shallow, panicked breathing. "Audrey, what do you want?" he asked, his voice trembling. "I don't want anything. I just called to give you a quick update," I said, dragging my words out slowly. "A friend of mine who works at Mercy General did me a favor and looked into Chloe's file yesterday. He told me her condition has taken a really bad turn recently. Her attending physician, a doctor, Miller, apparently a very smart guy, is running out of options. They say she's developed multiple opportunistic infections. Basically, her immune system is completely shot. I made the entire thing up. I didn't know her doctor's name or her current viral load, but I knew these lies would act like acid on Finn's brain. What? What are you saying? He stuttered. I'm not saying anything. I just feel bad for you. A young, naive guy, manipulated out of his money and his health by a sick woman. You really need to go get a full blood panel done immediately, Finn. Actually, go straight to Mercy General. They have the best infectious disease lab. Tell them you're a close contact of patient Chloe Evans. Tell them you need to see Dr. Miller in Clinic 3. They'll probably fast-track your blood work. With that, I hung up. I didn't give him a chance to respond. I knew Finn would swallow it hook, line, and sinker. He'd think I had spies everywhere, that I knew the exact names of the doctors involved. His fear would multiply exponentially. Not only was he terrified of the virus, but he was terrified of me. Next up was Chloe. For her, I needed a much more twisted psychological approach. I called her from my actual cell phone. Hey, Audrey. Wow. It's been a minute. Chloe's voice was painfully forced, laced with anxiety. Hey. Yeah, I've just been swamped, I replied, sounding as warm and friendly as if nothing had ever happened. How are you? The last few times I asked you to grab coffee, you bailed. Are you mad at me or something? No. Oh my God, no. I've just been so crazy busy at work. She practically tripped over her words to reassure me. Gotcha. Well, take care of yourself. Oh, hey. I just remembered something random. I was at a medical fundraising gala the other night and met this doctor named Dr. Miller. He works out of Mercy General. He seems incredible, like top of his field in rare and infectious diseases. I grabbed his card just in case a friend or family member ever needs a referral. Do you want his number? It might be good to have just in case. I heard a sharp clatter on the other end of the line, like she had dropped a coffee mug or her keys. When she spoke again, her voice was stripped of all its fake cheer. Why? Why would you bring that up? Just because he seemed like a great doctor and I wanted to share the contact. What's wrong? You sound weird. Are you feeling okay? I faked genuine concern. No, I'm fine. I'm just really busy right now. I have to call you back. Click. I smiled. Target neutralized. Dropping the name Dr. Miller and Mercy General to both of them would inevitably make them suspect each other. Chloe would assume Finn spilled her deepest secret to me. Finn would assume Chloe had confessed everything. One stone, two very dead birds. Now I just had to sit back and watch these two snakes eat each other alive. Shared fear doesn't fade. It mutates into a toxic epidemic that would choke the life out of both of them. The perfect moment for my endgame had finally arrived. It was the evening I knew Liam was scheduled to get his final, definitive lab results via the patient portal. Whatever the result was, his mental state would be shattered into a million pieces. I prepared a simple dinner and waited for him at the dining table. Liam walked through the front door looking like a ghoul. His face was gaunt. He sat down at the table without saying a word, gripping his iPhone with white knuckles. The screen was lit up, displaying an email notification from the lab. I didn't need to ask to know the result, and I didn't bring it up. Instead, I slid a brand new folder across the table. Look at this, I said calmly. It's a full audit of the firm's current finances. Liam looked up with dead, exhausted eyes. Audrey, I really can't process spreadsheets right now. Can we do this later? No, we can't do it later, I snapped, adopting a firm, businesslike tone. Because of what you and your brother did, the company is on the brink of bankruptcy. We owe hundreds of thousands to our vendors. Our biggest partners are threatening to pull their contracts. If we don't get a massive capital injection by tomorrow, everything we've built is going under. It was, of course, a complete lie. AD Interiors was running perfectly fine under my control, but Liam was so blinded by panic he couldn't see straight. All he heard was that on top of a potential death sentence, he was now staring down the barrel of a federal indictment for wire fraud. What? What do we do? He asked, absolute despair in his voice. I've already found a solution, I said, playing the competent, savior wife. I have a contact at a major private equity bank. They are willing to fast-track a massive bridge loan to get us through this crisis. But there is one strict condition. What condition? I'll do anything, he pleaded, grasping at straws. To clear compliance and get immediate approval, they require that 100% of the corporate shares and all major assets used as collateral be legally under the name of a single proprietor with a clean audit record. It has to be me. I'm the founder, and the board and vendors trust my name. All you have to do is sign this legal agreement transferring your 30% equity and your claim to the joint assets to me. It's strictly temporary. Once the loan clears and the company is stable, we'll draft new paperwork to put your name back on it. I slid a thick stack of legal documents toward him. It was an ironclad asset transfer and equity forfeiture contract drafted by my shark of a lawyer. No loopholes. Liam took the pen. His cloudy eyes barely skimmed the legal jargon. His brain was entirely consumed by T-cells, viral loads, and mortality rates. The company and the money didn't matter to him anymore. He just wanted to cling to me, the only person standing between him and federal prison. Okay, I'll sign, he said without hesitation. I handed him a pen. He gripped it with a shaky hand and signed the bottom of every page. His signature, which used to be bold and arrogant, was now a weak, illegible scribble. When he finished, I calmly gathered the papers, tapped them on the table, and slid them into my leather briefcase. It was done. This multi-million-dollar house, the investment accounts, the luxury cars, the company, everything was now legally, indisputably mine. Thank you for trusting me, I said, offering a tight smile. Go get some sleep. I'll handle the lawyers. Liam nodded numbly and shuffled off to the guest room. Watching his hunched, pathetic posture walk away, I didn't feel a drop of sympathy. He had just signed away his entire existence. From this exact second forward, he was officially a man who owned absolutely nothing. Just as I had calculated, my phone calls acted like venom, completely dissolving whatever sick loyalty remained between Liam, Finn, and Chloe. Paranoia morphed them from co-conspirators into vicious enemies. Frank updated me the next day. After my call, Finn had gone to Mercy General. He didn't have the guts to go inside. He just paced the sidewalk, trying to peer into the lobby to spot Clinic 3. Obviously, he found nothing, which only solidified his delusion that I was pulling the strings behind the curtain. Meanwhile, Chloe was having a total meltdown. She blew up Finn's phone, screaming at him, accusing him of leaking her medical history to me. Finn swore up and down he hadn't, but she didn't believe a word of it, fully convinced he had thrown her to the wolves to save his own skin. The boiling point was a secret meetup between Liam and Finn at a sketchy diner in Queens. Frank's guy was sitting in the booth behind them, recording the whole thing. Tell me the truth right now. Did you know she was sick from the beginning? Liam growled, his eyes bloodshot. I didn't. I swear to God I didn't know. Finn defended himself, throwing his hands up. You were the one who started sleeping with her first. Why are you blaming me? I started it, but you were screwing her too. You knew something was wrong with her and you didn't tell me. You wanted me dead. Liam slammed his fist on the Formica table. That's bullshit. I'm a victim here too. Finn yelled back. She played me. She told me she was going to leave you for me, and she never said a word about being sick. Hell, what if you gave it to her? What the fuck did you just say? Liam lunged across the table, grabbing Finn by the collar of his jacket. If my labs come back bad, I'll kill you with my bare hands. The fight spiraled out of control. They hurled insults, blaming each other for the entire disaster. They weren't brothers anymore. They were two cornered rats trying to chew each other's throats out. This is all your fault. If you hadn't gotten so greedy with the corporate accounts, Audrey wouldn't be digging into us. Liam spat. Oh, you've got some nerve. You weren't complaining when we were splitting the wire transfers. You're the CFO. You approved the fake invoices. If I go to federal prison, I'm taking you down with me. Finn shoved Liam off him. The diner manager had to step in and threaten to call the cops before they finally separated, storming out in opposite directions, fueled by pure hatred. Listening to the audio file in my office, I laughed out loud. Their brotherhood was as cheap as their morals. I had successfully divided and conquered. They were now isolated, terrified puppets, and I held every single string. My revenge was entering its final act. With all the assets secured in my name, I needed to lock down the embezzlement evidence for the authorities. The initial $300,000 I found was just the surface. Working in total secrecy with my accountant and a forensic lawyer, we audited the books going back 5 years. What we found was staggering. They had registered a shell LLC called L&F Builders under the name of Liam's distant cousin, who had absolutely no idea her identity was being used. This shell company was their vacuum cleaner. Almost all of our major commercial renovations subcontracted out to L&F Builders, allowing Liam and Finn to approve wildly inflated materials costs and bill for phantom labor. The money flowed directly out of AD Interiors into the shell account and straight into their offshore accounts. And, I realized, into Chloe's pockets, she had been using stolen company funds to finance her designer wardrobe and luxury vacations. They were parasites. After 2 weeks of grueling forensic accounting, we had a bulletproof dossier. The total stolen wasn't $300,000. It was closer to $800,000. The rage I felt was nuclear, but so was the satisfaction. I was ready to pull the trigger. To set the stage for Judgment Night, I needed Liam to completely lower his guard. I started playing the role of the overwhelmed, exhausted CEO. I came home late, skipped meals, and sighed heavily. One evening, I fake fainted in the hallway. Liam rushed over, terrified, catching me by the shoulders. "Audrey, are you okay? What's wrong?" "I'm fine. Just so dizzy from the stress of the audit," I whispered weakly. He helped me to the sofa, brought me water, and rubbed my shoulders. He was desperately trying to redeem himself. "This is all my fault," he said, tears welling in his eyes. "I'm so sorry." "Don't say that," I interrupted softly, placing a finger over his lips. "What's done is done. The only thing that matters is that we fix this together. We'll get through this." The words tasted like ash in my mouth, but they worked like magic. Liam looked at me with pure reverence. He hugged me tightly and sobbed into my shoulder like a child. "Thank you, Audrey. Thank you for not giving up on me. I swear to God I will make this up to you for the rest of my life." He had walked blindly into the slaughterhouse. He truly believed I had forgiven him, that I still loved him. For the next few days, I kept up the act, speaking softly, offering him false hope about the bank loan saving the firm. He became as docile as a lamb, waiting for my salvation. Entirely unaware I was just fattening him up for the kill. I picked a Saturday night. Nora was safely having a sleepover at her grandparents' house in Connecticut. I didn't cook dinner. I just brewed a pot of black coffee and set up the living room exactly like a courtroom. When Liam walked in from the garage, he saw me sitting in the leather armchair, my face set in stone. "Sit down. We need to clear the air," I said coldly. I laid the evidence out on the coffee table, one piece at a time. The PI's dossier of his affair, Chloe's HIV records, the forensic audit proving the $800,000 embezzlement, and finally, the signed legal contract transferring 100% of his assets and equity directly to me. Liam's face completely collapsed. The realization hit him like a freight train. My kindness, my forgiveness, the bank loan, it had all been a masterclass in manipulation. "Audrey," he stammered, his jaw trembling. I smiled. A vicious, predatory smile. "Did you really think I was that stupid? That I would just cry and forgive you for bankrupting my company and sleeping with my best friend? You severely underestimated me, Liam. After 10 years, I gave you everything. My heart, my trust, a C-suite job in my company. And what did you give me? Fraud, lies, and exposure to a lethal virus." Liam slid off the couch and literally fell to his knees on the hardwood floor, grabbing at my legs. "I was stupid. I was so stupid, Audrey. Please, forgive me. I'll do whatever you want. I'll go to rehab. I'll go to therapy." He was weeping, snot running down his face, but his tears only fueled my disgust. I kicked my leg free, stepping back. "Forgive you? You gave up the right to ask for forgiveness the second you forged that first invoice." Just then, the front doorbell rang aggressively. I knew exactly who it was. I walked over and yanked the door open. Chloe stood on the porch, looking haggard and unhinged. She pushed past me into the house. "Where is he? Where is Liam?" she shrieked. When she saw Liam sobbing on his knees and the dossiers spread across the table, her blind rage morphed into stark panic. What? What is all this, Audrey? Why don't you ask your boyfriend? I crossed my arms. Liam looked up, his face contorting into pure, venomous hatred. You! This is all your fucking fault! You ruined my life! Me? Chloe screamed back. You manipulated me! You promised you were leaving your boring wife for me. Shut up. You diseased bitch. You knew you were sick and you didn't tell me. You practically tried to murder me. Liam lunged up from the floor, getting in her face. They started screaming at the top of their lungs, exposing every filthy detail of their affair, airing out all their dirty laundry right in my living room. I stood back and watched the fireworks in silence. In a moment of absolute hysteria, Chloe lunged toward the console table, grabbing a heavy brass letter opener. You ruined my life! I'll kill you! She screamed, charging directly at me. I was ready for it. I stepped back smoothly. Liam, reacting purely on instinct, jumped in front of me to block her. In the chaos, the sharp brass blade sliced a deep, jagged gash down Liam's forearm. Blood immediately spurted out, soaking his white dress shirt. Ah! Fuck! He roared, clutching his arm. Chloe froze, dropping the bloody letter opener onto the rug, suddenly realizing what she had just done. The room fell dead silent. Taking full advantage of their shock, I pulled out my phone and dialed 911, 911. What's your emergency? Yes, I need police and an ambulance immediately. There is a woman in my home who just attacked us with a weapon. My husband is bleeding heavily. Please hurry. I spoke loudly and clearly. Hearing the word police, all the blood drained from Chloe's face. She turned on her heel and sprinted out the front door, fleeing into the night. Liam collapsed onto the rug, gripping his bleeding arm, looking up at me with a mixture of agony and profound defeat. The grand finale had arrived. In the distance, the faint wail of police sirens began to echo through the suburbs. I calmly reached into my briefcase, pulled out the final document, a set of divorce papers drafted by my lawyer, and dropped a pen next to him on the floor. Sign it, I said, my voice void of any emotion. Sign the divorce papers right now, giving me full custody, and when the cops walk through that door, I will tell them you are a hero who got stabbed protecting his wife. I won't press charges against you. You can walk away. Liam looked at me, clutching his bleeding arm, desperate for a sliver of mercy. And the money? My shares in the firm? He whispered weakly. I let out a harsh, bitter laugh. Do you have brain damage? Did you forget you signed all of that over to me 3 days ago? This house, the cars, the company accounts, they are 100% mine. You are leaving with the clothes on your back, exactly what you deserve. His pathetic hope hardened into pure hatred. You planned all of this. You're a fucking psychopath. A psychopath? I leaned down, getting inches from his face. Compared to you risking my life and my daughter's life with an infectious disease? Compared to you and your brother stealing 800 grand of my hard-earned money? Me taking back what is legally mine isn't psychopathic, Liam. It's justice. Now sign the damn paper before I hand this embezzlement file directly to the detectives. The sirens were deafening now. Red and blue lights flashed through the living room windows. Heavy knocking pounded on the front door. Police! Open up! The threat of federal prison overpowered his hatred. With shaking, blood-stained fingers, Liam grabbed the pen and scrawled his signature on the divorce papers. That messy signature was the official death certificate of our marriage and his entire privileged life. I snatched the papers, tucked them into my folder, and walked over to open the door. I played the traumatized wife perfectly, explaining to the officers that Chloe Evans had broken in and attacked me, and my brave husband had been stabbed defending me. While the paramedics bandaged Liam's arm and the cops took statements, I slipped into the kitchen and made one final phone call. Frank, it's Audrey. Call your contacts at the FBI White-Collar Division. Finn is currently at the corporate office trying to shred documents. Tell them to raid the building right now, catch him red-handed. I knew Finn would panic and try to destroy the paper trail. I wasn't going to let him get away with it. I hung up the phone and looked out the kitchen window. The New York night sky was clear and bright, but for the three of them, the apocalypse had just arrived. The following weeks played out exactly as I had orchestrated. Chloe was arrested at a motel that same night. The charges for aggravated assault and the intentional concealment, reckless transmission of a biological agent, HIV, made headline news. Once the story broke, several of her former flings came forward, some of whom had also contracted the virus. The DA threw the book at her. She took a plea deal for 8 years in state prison. Finn was arrested in his office, his hands quite literally in the shredder. With the forensic dossier I anonymously mailed to the feds, he didn't stand a chance. He flipped on everyone, confessed to the wire fraud, and was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison. My ex-mother-in-law called me, sobbing and begging me to drop the charges against her son. I hung up and blocked her number. It was the price he had to pay. And Liam received his own ultimate sentence. His lab results finally cleared. HIV positive. He completely broke. Penniless, jobless, and blacklisted from the corporate world, he sold his designer watches to pay for a bus ticket and vanished from the East Coast entirely. As for me, I went back to the clinic 3 months later, the standard window period for a conclusive HIV test. When the doctor handed me the paper and I saw the bolded negative, I broke down crying in the exam room. Tears of sheer relief. Tears of liberation. I was safe. Nora was safe. The nightmare was officially over. The divorce was finalized rapidly. Because Liam defaulted and didn't contest it, the judge granted me sole legal and physical custody of Nora and upheld the asset F transfer. Liam's court-appointed attorney handed me a letter from him. It was a pathetic, rambling apology, begging me to speak well of him to our daughter. I tossed it straight into the fireplace without replying. A year later, Nora and I had started a brand new life. We moved out of the suburbs and into a stunning penthouse in Manhattan. AD Interiors, now completely under my control and rid of the dead weight, was pulling in record profits. I was recognized in industry magazines as a fierce, independent powerhouse CEO. I told Nora that her father had taken a very long job overseas. I keep his memory neutral for her. It's the absolute last courtesy I will ever extend to the man I once loved. Today would have been our wedding anniversary, but I don't feel a single ounce of sadness. I took the day off and drove out to a quiet beach in the Hamptons, a place that used to hold so many memories. Standing in the sand, looking out at the Atlantic Ocean, I reflect on the brutal year that passed. I was pushed to the edge, I was broken, but I rebuilt myself into something unbreakable. My phone buzzes in my pocket. It's a text from Dr. Ian, a charming, brilliant cardiologist I met at a gala a few months ago. He's been respectfully pursuing me ever since. Where are you hiding? Are you free tonight? I know a great spot in the West Village that makes an unbelievable butternut squash soup. I'm sure Nora would love it too. I smile. A real, genuine smile. I'm out at the beach getting some fresh air. I am free tonight. See you at 7. Don't forget the soup. I slide the phone back into my pocket and take a deep breath of the salty ocean air. One dark, ugly chapter of my life has officially closed. A new one, bathed in sunlight and actual hope, is just beginning. Trust, once shattered, is nearly impossible to rebuild. Every selfish choice carries a devastating consequence. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this.
I'm freezing. I'm bleeding. Slowly fading away. But don't worry, I'm fine. The cold has settled in my heartbeat, like winter living in my veins. Every breath feels numb and fragile. Every smile just hides the pain. I'm breaking quietly in silence, falling slow without a sound. Yet I keep saying I'm okay, while my world burns to the ground. I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry. I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. Maybe pain just learned to live here. Maybe sorrow feels like home. So I wear my wounds like armor and survive them all alone. I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry. I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. If you ever see me smiling, no, it's just my last defense. 'Cause sometimes love means hiding how much you're suffering. No, I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry. I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. It's okay. Don't pity me. My heart doesn't need your mercy. I can still stand on my own. I was broken by your leaving, fell deeper than I thought I would. But pain has taught me how to heal now and survive what once I couldn't. You don't have to look back sadly, don't reach out with guilty hands. What you shattered made me stronger. Now I rise where I once collapsed. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow, I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling, I'll learn to breathe again. I once begged for your affection, now I've learned my worth in scars. And the man you left in pieces found his own way through the dark. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow, I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling, I'll learn to breathe again. So keep your sympathy behind you, I don't need what's left undone. Sometimes losing who once broke you is how healing has begun. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow. I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling. I'll rise alone again. I'll rise alone